This festive season and summer holidays, there's no better time to indulge in Australia's best coffee at Roasting Warehouse. Whether you're in Perth, Brisbane, Athens, or Melbourne, experience the perfect brew crafted with passion. Visit their flagship roastery and HQ in Airport West, where the magic happens, or drop by any of their stunning cafes for not just incredible coffee, but service and a cafe experience like no other. Celebrate this season with Roasting Warehouse.
And it's their leading goal scorer and captain, Stefan Moore.
And welcome back to another episode of Football Friends with Ben and Stef. Some big news obviously broke back on Tuesday. We've recorded this obviously now just as it's broken. Initial thoughts on Big PK leaving Melbourne Victory.
The Dons jumped the ship. I think we're due to play them again in a few weeks. And yeah, obviously we don't know exactly where yet. It's just come up saying overseas opportunity. Whether that's in Asia, we're hearing that it's maybe in Japan. So
I think it's an assistant coach as at Yokohama Marinos with the English coach that just got announced there. So
Hutchinson, is he gone?
Yeah, Hutchinson was released. Hutchinson apparently has gotten the Jubilo Iwata job in J2.
Okay.
And now PK's obviously going to Yokohama Marinos, apparently. So it's an interesting one. Obviously back in the City group, but leaving Victory 7 rounds in is not great for their fans. But I just look at it as that's the industry that we're in. I saw a lot of people on Twitter or X getting angry about it, but for me, you know, you're in an industry where players, coaches, football staff, everyone has ambitions to get to the highest level, and you know, you can't begrudge someone for leaving. I think the one thing is, you know, probably having clauses in there so you get some sort of payment for it. Obviously with the player you get a transfer fee. Coaches, you can get payments for that. That's just the way I look at it. I think there's only a few teams in the world that players will never leave those clubs, Arsenal being one of those for sure. But besides those top teams, everybody's going to want to get to those clubs and keep moving on.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's just, if you're a Victory fan, you're thinking, fucking hell, you know, it was maybe hard for us to accept this guy as our coach, being from Melbourne City and the rivalry there. But then he's come in, the team started unbelievably. They're right up the top, and the fans are probably thinking, fucking hell, this could be a good season. This could be our season. And now he's gone after only 7 games. So I can understand their frustrations, and obviously Victory now are probably on the back foot because they definitely don't have a coach already lined up because of how well they were doing. So they got to find someone. It'll be interesting to see who they get to fill his place. It's going to be kind of big shoes to fill, but I think they've got a good squad. They've obviously got Mitch Langrak now coming in as well. So it is huge news coming out of the A-League today, or at the time of recording.
I think as well, I think this is though probably where I listen to like the High Performance podcast and you hear the Brighton sporting director speaking, and they're talking about like, you know, plans for, all right, we have players that we maybe want to sell. So if we're going to sell, you know, Caicedo, we're going to sell Ben White, we're going to sell these players, we know eventually they're going to leave, which A-League teams should know. So I know it's easier over there, but they're planning, all right, we're going to sign a replacement for Caicedo or for Cucurella or Ben White before they leave. So we've already got that ready-made replacement. I know we don't have the money here maybe for that, but it's the same that they spoke about with Graham Potter leaving. They had a short list of coaches. I think A-League teams need to have that. So, you know, for example, this happens, instead of just being like, oh shit, who's an Aussie that's available? You know, maybe you can have a list of young and up-and-coming Aussie coaches or other coaches that you think maybe we can get them away from another team. And if you do that, you kind of put yourself in a little bit better of a position because it's going to keep happening. Coaches are going to leave, players are going to leave, and fans need to understand this. They can be upset about it and they can say, you know, he's burnt the bridge there and maybe he has, but the reality is players and coaches are always going to do this, because on the flip side of it, if you're a player or a coach and you're having, a poor performance, David Drilic or Zadkovic, every other fan's calling for their head. So what, you're telling me this coach needs to stay loyal to this club, but if he's going shit, they're going to sack him in a heartbeat. So, it goes both ways, and that's where, as a club, and then people were saying, well, how are we meant to get supporters and people, to the league? And for me, you love the club. You don't love the player or the coach that's there, because they're going to change. I love Thierry Henry. That's why I fell in love with Arsenal. Thierry Henry's fucking not been there for years, and I still wake up at 4 a.m. to watch him and be disappointed. But I fucking love the club. Like, that's just how it is. And that's, Adelaide United, you would have been the same. Like, I love Lachy. I love Travis Dodd. Man, they're not there anymore. Well, Travis is back as a coach. But, like, that's why I love the club, because I love those players. But then they left, and I still love the club. You don't change the club you like because of the players.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's going to be an interesting time. I'd love to keep chatting about it, but we've got our guest for today's episode waiting for us, so let's get him in, Steph. Joining us today, we've got a fellow Adelaide boy. They're always very welcome on our podcast. Someone that we've both played with, Steph.
Yeah, I've played with him. I don't know if you've played with him.
Yeah, we've both played with. He's now.
I know you enjoyed playing with him.
I enjoyed playing with him more than I enjoyed playing against him. But he's now playing in the MLS with Real Salt Lake. It's Lachy Brook. Welcome to the Football Friends podcast.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure. Pleasure to be on.
Yes,
I've heard,
obviously the other night we were with each other. You're back in Adelaide. Today you were at the training ground. So it's funny actually how a lot of the Adelaide boys, I did it when I was away in Japan, but a lot of the Adelaide boys actually like to come back to the club and train. We saw Nesta out there today, Pacific was there, Bovalina. Why do you think Adelaide's created this club where people want to come back and train with the other boys?
I think it's just the culture that's sort of always been around the club. Like, I think, for as long as I can remember, the club's never been a club that's going to bring in like the $1 million players. You maybe have had a few here and there, but everything that we've always sort of had is like good culture. And I think that's why a lot of the teams, even recently, I mean, it's hard to do it every year, but have been a successful club in terms of, well, we might not have the best team on the park or whatnot, but I just think the culture that the club has always had, the togetherness with all the boys, I think that's sort of goes a long way. And a lot of people come back as well, like you said, not even if that's just to train, but a lot of players do end up coming back to Adelaide United, and you sort of don't really see that at other clubs, where someone's gone to Europe or they've gone to Asia. They might come back to the A-League, but it's not always at the same club. Whereas with Adelaide, I feel like a lot of the boys do end up coming back. So I just think, I think it's the culture that they've set, and I think the people in and around the club, I mean, I think we all know like burning bridges in football is a terrible thing to do, but I think Adelaide do a really good job at just doing the complete opposite of that and keeping everyone sort of on level ground and stuff like that. So I think that's probably one of the main reasons, really.
They've always overachieved. In the history, I think, like you said, that maybe the budget's not the biggest, but especially in recent years, the job they've done of keeping the local Adelaide-based talent there has, that's shown dividends, because they've produced some unbelievable players. They've also sold unbelievable players. And one question I got, so is the second 11 now bopping the first 11 at Adelaide training?
He couldn't even make the second 11.
Mate, I was going to say that. I was like, I was on the side actually, which is fine. I just did a few 4-minute runs, but I thought maybe I'd get a look in, but I guess, maybe next.
To be fair,
maybe tomorrow or something.
We got Sydney FC, so we're obviously getting ready for them. Left footer, you could be Joe Lolly, you could be Douglas Costa. Maybe they need to get you out there.
Mate, I'm gonna have to say something. Get me a little bit more involved. No, it's been good. It's been good. Obviously, like coming back in training. I mean, I've only trained for the first time today, but straight away and I like what we spoke about, especially in off season for any players, the worst in terms of trying to get yourself or keep yourself fit. So if you can break it up from running on your own and, train with the train with the team. You can't really emulate that sort of training where you're doing possession drills, that short, sharp sort of stuff. So, no, it goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, and you've got what's the run that you're preparing for? 12-minute run.
Oh, so our fitness test when we go back is a 12-minute run, um, and you have to complete 3.2 Ks. So if you work it out, obviously when you do your pacings and stuff, I think it's a 3:45 pace just for 12 minutes straight, which is yeah, it's hard enough for anyone, but I think as footballers, which is very rare that we're running at that sort of pace for that long. You feel like this, you've either got boys that are doing the short sprints, every now and then, or the sixes and stuff that are just traveling at that one pace for 90 minutes. So it's a very odd run to do, but yeah, should be interesting, especially with the
Fingers
elevation
crossed
as well. So
you do it within that time frame. Is there a punishment if you don't do it?
no, I mean, there's not going to be a punishment, but it's just like anything. Like you don't want to not get the time because like I've been I'll be honest, I've been training pretty hard in this off season. I mean, I do it anyway, but so if I go back and I don't make the time, it might look like I've just not been training and stuff, and that's never a good look for anyone really. So yeah, no, I've been actually, I feel like I'm training for a marathon. That's what it feels like. I feel like I'm training for an actual like racing event. Like sometimes I've gone, oh, if I need to do football today, but I just bin the like technical drills and I just go do some running drills because I've got to do the 12 minutes, man. I have to get it done.
That's a stupid test, to be honest. But
it's tough. It's tough. I think it's more of a mentality one. I think it's not really like for football, but it's like, let's see what these boys, are mentally like. I don't know, but we'll find out January 11, I guess. So should be interesting.
Yeah. Well, you said you were training hard, but off air, you said Steph told me that you were at East End Cellars in Adelaide on Saturday night enjoying
It's balance, bro. Balance. Yeah. So Monday to Friday.
And then afterwards, he's getting his sprint work up, chasing the taxis to get in it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe.
So I said, boys, don't worry about Ubers. I'll round up some taxis. Exactly. No, it's to be fair, it's always like that in Adelaide whenever I come back, just catching up with friends and stuff in the off season and stuff. So yeah, no, all about the balance, just trying to find good times, obviously. And yeah, like a big year for me next year as well. So, and it's when you live away, I think both of you boys have obviously played away. Sometimes it gets difficult. So, just soaking up as much of like family and friends' time as much as you can. So that makes the year obviously a lot easier as well when you go back.
You've probably got the, I reckon, like the best, it was the same as Japan, I guess, the best break time to come back to Australia. Like, it's not great if you wanted to go to Europe for a holiday because it's obviously winter there, but in terms of coming back to Australia, like you've got a pretty long break and you're back here in the summertime when it's, especially Adelaide, it's the best time to be here. So that's the beauty of obviously being in America, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I was pretty skeptical. Sorry, obviously at first, you sort of see that football calendar, and it doesn't really align with, I guess national team. I mean, obviously it does at some point. You're all playing at the same time, but there's times of the year where maybe it's a bit more busy. You don't really align with other things. But yeah, in saying that, coming home, and I think this is the first time I've been home for Christmas in like 6 years, which small things like that are massive. And like I guess like you said, no Europe, but I mean, to be fair, like you said, Adelaide in the summer, you can't really beat it. So yeah, no, it is perfect timing for sure.
Yeah, it's a little perk that you get, I suppose, and you get to get out of the freezing cold in America this time of year, which is probably not a bad thing. Let's go back, because obviously you can take the boy out of Gawler, but you can't take Gawler out of the boy. Let's go back to your childhood. I suppose, when did you first start playing football? How did it come about? Was it something that was in your family, or was it just a passion that you had?
I think I started playing when I was 3 or 4 at Gawler Eagles. But yeah, I think it was more just I think I tried AFL and I didn't like it. But I was always going to play. I was always going to play football. Like I think my mum, just through like she's from Germany. She's always been pretty like involved in watching the national teams and stuff, and sort of that played a part as well. My dad played when he was younger, but it wasn't, he wasn't as into it as obviously I am now. But I think it's just sort of happened, and I think when I started playing, there was just sort of no turning back. I absolutely loved it for as long as I can remember. So guess it was when I was younger. I mean, no one really. I mean, maybe nowadays a lot of parents are putting their kids into making pros, but for me, and my parents, it was just like, well, he enjoys it, and he's staying fit, he's staying, social. I think that's obviously a big part of it when you're younger as well, is sort of that social, getting that social understanding of being around people and doing sports. But then, yeah, obviously as it develops, and you develop, it sort of became something that was a bit more serious, and then, yeah, from then it was just, now I am where I am now. So it's kind of crazy when you look back at it and all that. But yeah, been playing for obviously a long time now. So
What what age do you think it was, or was there a specific moment that you can remember where you thought, I'm pretty good at this and I've got a chance to make it professionally?
I think I was around 11 or 12. I actually had a scout, like a Tottenham scout come, and I ended up actually going over to Tottenham for, I think it was about 2 weeks, just on like a trial. And sort of, I mean, when you have that, even probably my parents as well. I mean, I'm 12, so I don't really, I'm obviously excited about it, but they're probably looking at it now like, well, far out. Like, if teams like that are looking, maybe he's actually decent, because they might not have any idea. So, that's sort of when they started, I guess, talking about the little things like taking it more serious. But I think the biggest thing was like with my parents, and I think, I don't want to trash talk any other parents, but just I think the main thing that they did was always just try to remind me that it was like, they weren't too hard on me. They would always remind me of just enjoy it type of thing. I feel like some parents nowadays put way too much pressure on their kids to like be the best player in the world when you're like 11 years old. And it's sort of, you see those players sort of lose a love of the game. And if it's not now, it'll be later on where they just pretty much throw it in the bin. So I'm pretty grateful that my parents were, they were harsh on me, but they were never like not giving me dinner because I didn't score a hattie or something like that. So it was a good balance. It was a good balance.
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't come from the Wog household like me. I had to fucking walk home after games when I didn't play well.
Yeah, no, there you go. You're still kicking about, so that's all right. There must not
No,
been
no,
that hard.
no. I can't. I'm just taking the piss. My dad will probably listen to this and get angry. He only belted
Yeah.
me. He only belted me once. I swear.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
It's
Um,
I think it is like it's so hard now because obviously I saw I think it was Ruud van Nistelrooy the other day on it might have been an old chat that he was on, but he was talking about the difference in how young players, 15, 20 years ago just grew up enjoying playing football. They were playing in the streets, they were riding their bikes, they were being kids, where now kids are training 6 times a week from the age of 5 or 6, and I think they lose the joy. And some kids are really professional, they want to make it, and I get that, but I don't know at that young age if it's making that much of a difference. The best thing, and probably why, let's say, Brazilians are the best at doing it, South Americans, is because they just play in the streets because they love it. It doesn't need to be structured. They just need to be with the ball outside with their mates. Where here, Australia, I'm sure America's even worse. The UK with the academies, it's kind of taking the love out of the sport. But what I wanted to say is, have you found in America there's a big emphasis on like youth football, similar as here, getting kids in young?
Yeah. In terms of America, I think, to be fair, like where I am, and sort of like within the MLS, I know that it's definitely something that they are trying to install. It is really difficult because a lot of their younger kids. I mean, if you're American and you're young, they do tend to get sort of scouted, and go elsewhere. But even if you look now, like maybe not such like, we're talking like 10 to 15 age group, but if you look at like players that are like ready to play in the first leagues and first division and stuff, like they've actually done all right. And I was sort of looking at it after I signed and having a look at all of like the young Americans and where they, like the ones that do well under like 22 and where they go, they're all going to like top five leagues. So I think they've definitely built a model, maybe not so much for, and because I mean, I don't really know much about it, but in terms of like 10 to 15, I'm not sure, but they've definitely doing all right with that sort of that gap between going from basically pretty similar to what we do. Maybe our Aussie players aren't going to those top five leagues, but they're still going, over to Europe or places where it's just another step up. But yeah, so I mean, even like some of the players that have left recently, like players like that John Duran and stuff. I know he's not American, but they've still got that model of grabbing younger players and selling them onto these top five leagues, and they've all done pretty well. Like it's insane some of the outgoing transfers. I think even the winger that left before I signed, a Colombian guy, I think he was 21. He went to a team in France for 15 mil. Like that's 15 million USD, which that's insane. For someone, I think that he was there for 2 seasons. That I think they maybe bought for 1 million. So, they've got that, and they do that with the Americans as well. So they've definitely got something in place with youth. But yeah, it's sort of hard to say if that's similar to how it is in Australia within the younger age groups, because I don't really see too much of it, to be honest.
Yeah, they've got a great breeding ground though that's not far in all of the Americas, with obviously South America, Central America, and then obviously the States and Canada as well. But when you've got those, and the MLS is definitely the biggest league. I think you've got them Brazil and Argentina, which are massive in South America, but you've got these Mexicans and that you can get for probably not that much. But if you get a few of them and you do your research and you've got your scouts working hard and you get one that's good, those players are ready to go to those big leagues. And I think they're probably, the MLS is just quite a bit more developed than the A-League, and they've probably got those academies going all the way down. So probably when they actually get to playing in the first team, it's a much higher standard, and they've been through that. They've got promotion, they've got relegation, so they understand the pressures of European football.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to your youth, then you went on and joined obviously Adelaide United youth team, and then with the first team, you obviously made that transition and then played a few games before moving to Brentford. When you came to the youth team, did you think, okay, like now I'm here, it's only a matter of time before I play for the first team and then get a move overseas? Was that always the goal of yours?
Yeah, so I did what I think both of you guys did. We went to the AAS and obviously signed a pro deal with United. And I think I was really young at the time. I was only at the AAS for I think 7 months before I signed at United. And that was when Guillermo Moore was manager. And yeah, so I was with the youth team pretty much the majority of it. Yeah, for me, to be fair, like for me, it was always like, especially when I saw boys that were at the AAS before, sort of what you compare it to. And I think at the time you guys were all playing. So it was like, well, if I just keep doing what I'm doing and, training and, to be fair, like I wasn't actually when I was like that age, 15, 16, I wasn't putting too much pressure on myself. And I think that was, now when I look back at it, it was like a really good thing, because I wasn't like, well, he's playing, I need to be playing now. It's just like, it'll come. And when the time comes, just make sure you're ready. Because I think the worst thing that you can do is sort of not be ready, and then you play, and then it's maybe you don't play. I mean, and to be fair, that sort of happened to me. I think I debuted when I was 16, and I wouldn't say I wasn't ready, but I wasn't going to be a player that was going to play week in, week out. So, yeah, for me, it was just like, well, at least I've done it. I'm in and around it now. Like, let's just keep going, and whenever I'm ready, it'll be my time to sort of. And that's sort of what happened. I think an opportunity came in the hub where I was able to play some games, and I did quite well for my age and stuff, and just with basically playing little to no A-League games as well. So yeah, it was definitely the move to Brentford was something that I had to think about a lot, because I hadn't played a lot of games, and if I could do it again now, I mean, I like to say I don't have any regrets, but you never know. If I stayed, I might never have played. If I went, I might have been playing in the championship if they didn't go up, things like that. So you can never really say, but yeah, that's sort of how it all came about for me. Anyways, so yeah.
Was the what age were you? You would have been 19 when that all happened in the hub?
Yeah, I think I was either just 19 or maybe, yeah, I was just 19 actually, just 19.
Yeah. Fuck, I didn't realize you were so young when you were training with us when I was there. Feels like
I was 15.
yeah, you were.
I was 15 when I first came in.
Yeah.
When I signed, I was 15. I didn't like, yeah, it was, I wasn't really training though until I think I turned 16, and then I started like training a bit more. But yeah, it was insane.
What were
Just
those 3 years that it took you? What was it that you think took you 3 years until you broke in? Do you think it was physically? Because I remember when you were training with us, obviously when you come from a lower standard, not that you know the AIS, but you're just younger. It takes you a little while anyway. But technically, it's not as if I would have ever said like, "Fuck, this guy's not up to it." Technically, you were there. I think it was
Yeah,
probably just more of a physical development or even a mental development.
definitely. I'd say it would be physical and maybe even mental. Because to be fair, like I would go to trainings all the time, and I would sort of just think like, oh, I've got no chance here, no chance here. And I think not that I didn't want to be there, but it was just like you go from maybe like you said, training with the youth where you're not, well, more often than not, you're the one at training that's, tearing up and doing well. And then you go to a trainings where maybe you do one good thing a week. You're like, oh, this is hard, man. And like, oh, like, it's like, oh, how was training? It's like, yeah, cool. I didn't really do anything, but like, you're just like, so that mental side of it was probably the thing when I started to when it started to get a little, but I think it went hand in hand, because when I started to get a little bit more physical, and then I started to do a little bit better. It was like, well, come on, like push, man. You're not going to be the best player here, but you just need to keep going, keep developing. And then you sort of, you remind yourself, well, you're 17 or 16 years old. So there's probably that. And I had injuries as well. Like I think I was out for one of the years for about like 5, 6 months. And then I had just ongoing knee issues as well. So there's things like that as well that obviously played a part. But I think it all, like I said, geared me up. I spent a lot of time in the gym through those injuries. And sometimes that's the best thing that a young player can have, is just a little 5 month injury. Get him in the gym 5 months. The guy comes out a different guy. And I think that sort of happened with me as well. So yeah,
yeah,
there's a few things, but definitely I'd say the physical side of it for sure.
yeah. I think that's probably the hardest thing. Like what you're saying is like, especially, and this is where I don't know how you change this. I think the biggest way to do it is you get your lower players, your lower quality players in your club teams to improve their standard, because you should have been, when you're at a club team, you should be getting pushed every training session. But here in Australia, the reality is the top 2 or 3 players are so much better than everyone else. Then you go into a state system, it's maybe a little bit more challenging, but still not ridiculous. You go to an AIS, it's hard, but it's not. It's not cutthroat, because once you've got a scholarship, you're there.
Yeah,
And I
you're
think
there. Yeah.
it's not until you go to an A-League team with the men, it's the same for me and Ben, when you actually first get that like proper resistance and you're like, fuck, I was the man, now I'm not, how do I deal with this? And also they're trying to win on the weekend, because as what you realize, when you're in a professional environment, it's just it's about winning. And I wish we had more money and more resources so you could have more develop like individual player coaches for the younger players, but we don't have that here. And I think a lot of players can actually fall out of the system in those first 2 or 3 years. You're obviously someone that hadn't, but there's probably players that you're thinking, fuck, he was just as good as me, but he maybe couldn't handle it physically or mentally or both. And I look at the clubs and I think it's an issue that the clubs should be trying to fix. But also the players need to take that upon themselves. And then when you do play like you did, and you've got that quality, you show it very quickly in this league, because if you are a good player, you can do well. And then you go overseas, which happened to both of us, me and Ben, and then you hit with another bit of resistance where you're like, fuck, now it's not just 14 players that are good like an A-League squad. It's fucking 30 players that are all at a top level. At Brentford, I'm sure it was even more. So how did you react when you went to Brentford? Obviously, you were part of the B team for a lot of it, but how was that then next transition to be like, all right, now you kind of built your way back up, and then you go there and you start at the bottom?
Yeah, see that, and that was just another thing that that's just like you say, every time you go somewhere new, even if you go somewhere new and it's not exactly like a step up, it's new. So there's other challenges. If that's not on the pitch, it's off the pitch. So yeah, when I went to Brentford, and they were in the championship at the time. I think the year before I signed, they lost in the playoffs to go to the Prem. So obviously when they came knocking, I was like, oh, that's class. Like they're a good championship team. That's a reasonable pathway to get into. Obviously going through the B team first, I knew I was going to go over there and start playing championship straight away. But it was something where I was like, well, this is like realistic. And when I went there, it started off all right. It was obviously hard to adjust. I think I went over in a weird time as well, where that was the year where the transfer window sort of got extended through COVID. So they're already like not halfway through, but they're already a good chunk into what they were doing within their season. So it's not like I was there for a pre-season or anything. So it was pretty strange timing. But the thing for me is I was in that weird category with like the B team players where I'd sort of played not a lot of games, but I had played in a first team before, and I'd been training first team for so long. The majority of the time I was with the B team as well, so I was in that weird bracket where I was like, this is just like, and I sort of actually went back to the player that was doing really well at training and maybe being a standout at training and stuff as well. It was almost the opposite thing where it was like, well, this is just like, come on, like maybe I wasn't quite good enough to be playing in the championship or playing with them, because I mean they were killing it that year as well. They ended up going to the Prem that year, so there was no way I was getting near that either. So it was just a really weird spot where we weren't playing competitive games because obviously the B team wasn't in a league. They run and play against friendly, so it's really hard. It was really hard for me to sort of stay motivated to not be in a league and then not be with the first team. And I was in that. So then when I came back on loan to Adelaide, that was probably like the best thing that I could have done. And they were in the Prem at the time as well, so that's when sort of everything within Brentford sort of switched for me, because they signed me as a young player that might get ready for champ. You go up to the Prem, it's a whole different, like it's not even like it's bigger than NPL to A League. There's no real comparison. Like it's insane. And you sometimes wonder how these championship teams that go up stay up, because the difference is it's insane. Like it's not just one league up. It's like Bundesliga 2 to Bundesliga, it's a bit closer. It's still different, but this championship to Premier League it's insane. It's insane. So obviously everything changes for you. Then, which, sometimes is a bit of a shame because, maybe if they sort of stayed back in the championship, a lot of those players would have left. Players like Ivan Toney, players that were like Premier League ready, they all would have left, and it's hard to sort of replace those players. So who knows if there was going to be an opportunity there or not. But I guess that's just football. That's how football works, really. So yeah, that was my main challenge, is sort of going over there. But insane that you learn so much just being around that sort of environment as well. So I think overall, yeah, it was a good move. Just sometimes the luck doesn't exactly go your way with certain things, and it can go from something that could have been unbelievable to maybe something that I would say like didn't work out as well. So yeah,
it's timing. It's right place, right time. It's a little bit of everything, and then getting a little bit lucky, probably in terms of staying fit, having a good coach. But would you say that standard of the B team was too low for your development at that time? Like obviously you're speaking about not playing games consistently. That's one thing because you've obviously been involved with first team. But was the actual standard of it probably not challenging enough for you at that time?
it was a really weird one because there was some unbelievable players in that B team, and then there was some players that weren't so great. So
Isn't that where what's his name, Beckham's son signed?
yeah, yeah. So Romeo was there.
Was he one of the
Not a
good
bad.
ones or not so great?
He was actually not too bad. People ask me, was his dad? No, obviously he's not his dad. He's at Brentford B team. He's not playing for Real Madrid. But he was a good player. I just think I'd hate to have to sort of live up to someone like that. Your
Fuck
dad's
that.
David Beckham.
Your dad's David Beckham, your mum's Victoria Beckham. Fucking go and be a model.
He's done that now, so he's actually not playing football. He just did a shoot with Balenciaga. So I said it's not a bad little.
He
Yeah,
hasn't
it's
lost
all
out,
right.
has he?
No, not really. Oh man, but yeah, really nice guy actually. I think if you were to judge, like if you were to not meet him, I think there'd be a lot of people out there would say, I bet you he's a bit of a prick because far out, like you just said, David Beckham's your dad, Victoria Beckham's your mum, but I think he's just like when you've been in the spotlight since you were born. I think those type of people sort of just crave a bit of normality. So I think whenever we was at training and with the B team, it was just like I can just be a bit normal here. Like I can just be a boy that's at football, training with his mates. Like so, I think that's why he probably enjoyed it as much as he did. But yeah, it's not for everyone, and I think he maybe saw that he wasn't going to progress as something that was worth it. So just decides to model for Balenciaga, which isn't a bad gig either. So
Yeah, 100%. And then you've gone, obviously you come back to Adelaide, as you said, and then also the loan stint at Crewe Alexandra. How was that? Obviously, completely different style of football in the lower leagues in England, and knowing how you play, it's probably not really something that suits you. But you had to
Yeah.
do it, obviously, to try and prove you could stay in England. So how was that spell, and then kind of what transpired after that?
Yeah, so with the crew move, it's something that I've, sort of thought about a lot. And like I said, I try to never have any regrets because there's things you learn, whether that's in life, not always football, but things maybe off the pitch that you learn in these experiences. But I think, yeah, overall, I just don't think it was the right thing. I think, yeah, like you said, I would honestly, I would have been better off going on loan to a champ team, but I didn't have the CV nor clubs, that would think that I was good enough. But I mean, we played against champ teams in pre-season, or we played against team like in cups and stuff. Those were the games where I probably played my best because they were playing football. So yeah, it is a shame that, I mean, I lost a whole year of maybe coming back to the A League and having a good A League season and things like that. But the things that I learned, obviously, sort of just living and sort of appreciating certain things, like even living over in the UK, I didn't love it. And I think it sort of made me realize, okay, what do I like in life? What type of places do I like living? And when you've got things that aren't going well in football, you're not living in a really good place. You can get to, it's pretty scary, man, like how, sort of mentally like downhill you can go because of the sport that we play. And I think that sort of taught me a lot about maybe I don't go back there if a move came, because did I actually like it? And okay, let's say the money's good or the opportunity's good. Money's only as good as how happy you are. I mean, obviously there's a certain extent to that. Going to Saudi for 10 million, I'd live in a shoebox. But, like you've got to really think about sometimes, is this actually, and I'm single, I'm on my own. So I can only imagine it's that much harder when you've got, a kid, a wife, two kids to think about as well. You don't just think about yourself. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that side of football. They go, oh, surely you got to go. Well, yeah, I could, but am I going to enjoy it? Am I going to be happy? And I think we can all agree you play your best when you're happy. It's as simple as that. It goes hand in hand. And when you're playing well, you probably are happy, and it bounces off each other. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that taught me loads about the off side of football. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I can't say I regret it, because it did teach me a lot of stuff.
Did you? I 100% agree. A lot of people say the three things is money, the footballing opportunity, and the lifestyle. And if it ticks, two of them or three of them, if you're really lucky and you're a good enough player, then perfect. But were there moments there where you did, or I'm not going to say depression, but were there some low moments there? Because I had plenty of low moments, and Steph the same when he was in Holland. It's hard to explain. People probably don't really understand it from the outside, but it gets fucking tough mentally, especially if you're not enjoying where you're living.
Yeah, there was definitely moments. I had times where I was playing, and those, you can sort of, when you're not enjoying a place or you're a little bit down, but you're playing,
You
you
can
can sort of,
justify everything.
you can just justify things. If you're in a place that you don't like, you're not happy, you see sun for about an hour a day, it's raining, you're just not having a good time, and then you're not playing, that's where things are just like, what am I doing? Like, what are we doing here? So there were definitely a lot of those moments. And I think the one for me was when I actually was only on a 6 month loan, and I was playing, and I was, things actually started really well. Then I had an injury and sort of struggled to come back, but they were adamant. They were like, well, we really want you to stay. And I was like, I had my ex missus at the time there as well. And she was going to be living there whether I stayed or not. And that definitely played a part. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to give it 6 months, another crack, and just see how I go, and just try put in as much as I can to, make this somewhat of a successful thing or develop in some area. And it just, like, as soon as I signed, I think I played 2 games, and then it was just back to the boys that could kick it long. And yeah, it was just not me at all. And I just sort of had to battle my way through it for 6 months in the winter. And it was just, yeah, it wasn't terrible. And it affected relationships around me. Like, I wasn't happy. So I wasn't the best guy to be around and stuff like that. Like it affects more than like a lot of people think. I wasn't just on my own. It was affecting like relationships, friends, and even family. I didn't really want to talk much and things like that. So it does really like change a lot. For sure.
I think it's the hardest thing, and only players that play the game obviously can understand it, because you think, people always use the analogy and say stuff like, oh, you're a fucking professional footballer, you're getting paid to play, you've got the best job in the world, you've got nothing to complain about. And it's like, well, that's not how it fucking works, because obviously you've gone over there and your expectation is one thing. So it's up here, you're on a high, you're in Australia, life's good here. You go there and it's not that. And you think, well, fuck, so I've left a place where I was happy, I was playing, everything was good, now it's worse. And then you're playing this internal battle to be like, nah, fucking come on, get up for training today. Make sure you train well, do this, do that, eat well, do the right things. And then you don't get the reward for it. And then you do, like you said, you get into this hole where you just want to be on your own. And you're like, fuck, I don't want to speak to anyone. Because for me anyway, it was more like I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I wasn't playing and that I couldn't handle it. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to tell anybody about like how I'm feeling. So I'll just like ignore the calls and don't worry about them. But then it gets even worse. So it's funny the older you get, and obviously you've experienced a lot at a young age, but the older you get, the more you start to understand a couple things. But one, Australia is the best place in the world to live.
Yeah.
I think
Even Gawler.
Even Gawler. If I had to live here my whole life, I would, man, 100%.
But then, like, on the second part of it, I think you understand that, like, you need to separate you as the player to you as the person. And if things aren't going well on the field, you're never going to be your happiest. You're never going to be your true self. But I think if you can try and be the same sort of person, like, you're someone that's a loud person, you've always got a smile on your face, you're taking the piss, like, you have to come into training and be the same way whether you're playing or not, because that comes first. Like that there of you as a person will help you as the footballer. So it's hard to do, but I think trying to be like that is what helps you. And as a young player, you don't have the confidence to do that. And until you've gone through a few shit things, and then you decided to come back to Western Sydney. Firstly, why did you choose Western Sydney, and why not Adelaide? And then because of all those hard moments, is that why you think you did so well at Western Sydney, because you were kind of hardened?
Yeah, so for me, after the Crew move, I pretty much sat down with Maisie and I said, listen, I just want to find somewhere where I can enjoy football. That I said, I don't even care how much. I mean, don't give me $20 a fucking year, but I was like, I just need somewhere where I can just re-elevate. And I said to him, I was like, we thought about like looking around Europe. One, I probably wasn't going to be able to get anything that was decent. And I said, I despise just staying in Europe to say that I play in Europe. Like, it has to be something that's good. Like, it's all well and good me saying I play in Europe, but if it's not, one, if I'm not playing, two, the money's bad, and three, I'm training in a paddock. Like, what's the point? Like, you're better off going into the A-League and playing. So Western Sydney had shown interest even before I signed at Crew. So they were always asking about potentially coming back on loan there, as were Adelaide. It was sort of, well, am I going to come back to the A-League? Or am I going to take Brentford's advice and stay in England and really give it a crack? Should I have listened? Maybe not. I probably should have gone back to the A-League and developed again. But like I said, you can't go back on it. So yeah, Western Sydney. Adelaide, after Crew, weren't in a position to sign me. I think they had, Goody was still at the club, wasn't going to go anywhere. And I think they were pretty much like full up front, which was, it was a shame, because I would have obviously come back in a heartbeat. I think I've made it pretty clear. I love Adelaide and even love the club. So yeah, that would have been good. But Western Sydney were sort of the team that were really pushing. They were sort of ringing my agent every day saying, come on, can we get this done? And I think that goes a long way when you sort of feel like really wanted. I think that's what any player really wants. If it's a club that's sort of saying, yeah, we'll have him, and they're the ones, sort of taking time to send offers. They'd sent an offer before I even said I would join. Like, they had, this is what it would be. And when you have that, it's always a big tick, I think, in making a decision. And yeah, it did turn out to be a good decision. I think straight away, just being back in Australia and that camaraderie that everyone talks about within teams in Australia, it sort of just made everything perfect for me. And don't get me wrong, there was challenges through the year at Western Sydney as well. Like I went through a stage where I wasn't playing because fell out of favour, and I think Rudan wouldn't mind me saying, like he's a hard coach to play under, man. Like one week he's your favourite player, and then the next week you don't want to talk to you. And I think, but that's something that always kept us players, on our toes. Like there was no one that was gonna. Doesn't matter who you are. There was no players that were like, yeah, I'm just gonna rock up today. It was like, nah, I need to be on it today. Like, and it was every day. It wasn't, oh, we're doing 11 to 11 today, I need to be on it. It was a Monday at recovery, and you're doing your stretching, and you go, I better do this for 30 seconds, otherwise I'm in trouble. Like it's things like that, and it just kept you accountable. So yeah, I think in some way that definitely helped, but I had to go through it to sort of come out the other. Like I went through it. Like I went through the whole, like, this is, I'm not doing this. This is bullshit. And, but when I came out in the end, I sort of started playing more towards the end. I went on a really good streak and I started playing really well. So in the end of the day, that's sort of what got me the move to where I am now. And it's what we said we wanted to do. I wanted to come for a year and I wanted to go. Like I didn't want to stick around, and they didn't want me to stick around. And yeah, everything that I said I sort of wanted to do happened. So that's probably the one decision in football where I was like, yeah, you've absolutely done the right thing there. And it worked out perfectly for me.
Yeah.
Do you think that style of coaching, obviously every player likes different things, but in the moment, like some players would love that more than others. That's just the way it is. Like some players are like, fuck, I love this guy if he's screaming at me and on it and like intense. Like for me, I would like that. Like that's an environment where, yeah, you still have moments where you think, fuck this guy, like, but I would like it. Do you think that type of environment though can kind of eat some players up?
Yeah, definitely. And without sounding too bad, like there was definitely players that didn't thrive in that environment. And it's got nothing to do with how the coach, like how the boss was. It was just, that's how it is. Like he had his way of wanting to do things, and it's not, like I said, it's not for everyone. It's just like how people just being relaxed isn't for everyone, because then they become complacent, and they're not going to get the best out of themselves. They're not going to get the best out of the player. So it's like you said. Trust me, there was definitely times where I did not like it, but I think when you look at it in the big picture, do you want to go through it again? Probably not. But there's certain aspects of that coaching and that absolutely got the best out of me, because every time I scored, it was like, yeah, fuck you, like I can score, like I can. And then I realized, like, fuck, why am I caring so much? And that's just because of how he was. But like, if you score a goal and your coach isn't like that, you're probably just like, yeah, all right, sweet, I scored. But he almost added like a level of motivation onto it as well, because you're like, I've got to prove him wrong. Like I need to. So yeah, I think for me, because that's just how I'm sort of wired, I think it actually in the end pretty much helped a lot, really, to be honest. So
Who were the other wingers there? You, Milo,
Dylan.
Dylan?
Dill, and then so there was, obviously we sort of played like a weird sort of system. Then we started playing with like tens. We changed it a bit. So then we had Sonny Kittle came.
The German, yeah, Sonny.
Sonny
Yeah.
Kittle came. Milosh was relied on a few times, and then we obviously had Buzz. So there was enough players around that spot was no one's spot really. Like you had to play well, and he was a coach. I don't care who you are. Like if you're not playing well, you're gone. Simple as that. Like, so yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but I ended up having a good season, and I think that's the main thing, obviously. So yeah, you can say thanks to him, I guess.
No, I think what you actually need to say thanks to is fucking me, and you need to give me a commission. Because every time you fucking played against Western United, you fucking scored.
It's true. It's true. That was the team that I liked playing against. It was weird though. Like and that first game that I played, like I didn't start the first game of the season, and I was just like, I actually had a really good preseason. Like
You scored 5 against Adelaide, didn't you?
Nah, I scored 5 in the cup again. I can't remember what the team was. It was an NPL team, but I had a good start. And then, you're not playing first game of the season and you're like, fuck. you can imagine what I'm thinking. I was like, I've just come back here because I need to elevate my career. I'm not even starting the first game of the season, man. Like, I was like, this is so bad. Anyway, and then the second round, and I was like, I was like, I have to do well here. Like, there's no, and I ended up
How
scoring the,
how hard was that? How hard was that moment? Because I
yeah,
had well, Steph, you probably haven't been, but I was like that when I came back from Hearts. I came back to Melbourne City, and that was my lowest point in my whole career because I was like, fucking hell, I was playing in this league when I was fucking 17, 18, and now
yeah,
I'm fucking 23, 24, and I'm fucking sitting on the bench. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm actually just a
yeah.
shit player. I'm a shit player now.
That week, that whole, yeah, it was fucking very tough because I was exactly what you said. I was like, I'm meant to I'm meant to be playing. Like, I'm here because I should be the starting winger. I'm not even playing. It's round one. Like, and you start thinking, well, what are people going to think and things like that. And it is tough. It is really tough. But obviously, and that was another like piece of the puzzle that sort of built that. And I would say now, like mentally, I would say 50 times stronger than what I was at the start of that. So yeah, like I said, all of these little things, everything that happens in football is a learning lesson, whether it's your lowest or your highest. Like, I just think like every little thing adds another piece of something that you can learn. So yeah, but it was fucking tough, man.
Yeah,
It was tough.
that's a hard. I reckon that's the hardest part of football. Doubting yourself. At the end of the day, like
Yeah,
everyone, we always say, like, what's your piece of advice? Like that inner talk, that self doubt, that will either make you or break you. Like, some people can deal with it really well. They have a little bit of nerves, but they can deal with it. Other people fucking crumble. Like,
yeah,
until I really believed in myself, and I wouldn't say that was probably until I was maybe 25 or 26 that I actually got that in my career, where I was like, you know what, I'm never gonna fucking doubt myself like that again. Where I actually started to feel like so much better within my own head, even if I have a shit game or anything. That I'm like, you know what, I had a shit game, but I trust myself. I believe in myself as a player. Like, next week I'll be better.
yeah. The craziest thing for me that I've sort of noticed is just how much power one person can have on your career and basically like everything in your life. Like, this person, like you say, your coach, is literally controlling you. Like, if he's not picking you, you're a completely different person. And I just think
Yeah.
that was the one thing that I had to really, really realize. And what Steph touched on was separating you as a player, and then you as a person. And that person part is obviously a little bit more important when you're talking about like your mental side of things. And yes, learning to separate. Okay, hold on. I know I'm not playing. I know, at the time you think, oh, my coach hates me, my career, everything that I'm doing. If I'm not doing well, then what am I doing? That's the only thing that I do. So it was separating that part of it and just making sure, okay, like, you're still a person, and there's still more to your life than not being picked on the weekend and things like that. That's sort of when I started to really become better at dealing with those like really shitty times. But yeah, like you said, you got to go through it to understand it and to understand how to deal with it, because otherwise it's just, no one can really understand how it sort of feels. It's probably the most degrading thing in the world when you think that you need, and you have a certain expectation of yourself, and it doesn't matter if it's too high. If your expectation of yourself is that you need to do this and you're not doing it, and someone's in the way of you doing that, there's nothing worse. There's no worse feeling. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is tough. It is tough.
And I think as well, like what you're saying with the coach being the one that decides, like, I think that's one thing where, like, I tried to really understand, like, I can never control the coach. I can never control. I can choose the team I go and play for, but I could go and play for a certain coach and he gets sacked after 2 games. So
Exactly.
I can't actually ever control that. What I can really control is like my own environment and what I tell myself and what I know. All right, when Stefan Mork, the player, plays at his best, what does he do? What does he need? And I can try and create that environment for myself wherever I go. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be my best player, but it means, like, I feel like you two would be the exact same. When you were at your best, when you're younger, you were a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, a top player. And that's what you see with a lot of young players. But when they're at their worst, it's horrible. It's like
Yeah,
You got to get this guy off the field. Like, he's not up to the standard, and like that can't happen. That's why certain players go through the ranks because they keep
yeah,
going up the levels and they're consistent. And when you become older, you start to realize, okay, I need to keep my game at a certain level. When I have an average game, it doesn't need to be too bad, but you need to have coping mechanisms and you need to kind of first go through it and understand it. But if you do have that coach that actually gets the best out of you, that's where me and Ben always speak about it and say it's just luck. At the end of the day, you have an Ange Postecoglou. We spoke about it with Oli Bozanic as well. You have an Ange Postecoglou when he's coming through the A-League, let's say at Brisbane Roar or Melbourne Victory, and if you're a good player, you're maybe in the Socceroos because you're now in a team that's playing this ridiculous football. He's getting the best out of every single player, and you're winning championships. So you're going to be looking like one of the best players in the league. But if you get, a coach that's not very good and you're a good player, you might look like fucking you're not even up to the A-League standard, but you might be similar players. And that's where it's just football is yeah, it's obviously talent, but it's fucking a lot of luck.
it's the best worst game in the world, man. Like, it's some parts of it are absolutely dreadful, and then some parts of it are amazing. And yeah, that's obviously what we understand because we play it. But like you said, from the outside, it's all just unbelievable. So yeah,
Yeah.
100%, man, 100%.
But yeah,
How's
going
the
on.
yeah? Oh,
I was
go
just going
on.
to say, going on to the MLS, like, firstly, did you want to go to the MLS? Like, was it like, okay, I've been to Europe, the UK, I don't really want to go there. I'm happy to go somewhere new. And was the MLS kind of something that you were aiming towards?
To be fair, before the interest, like, it's nothing, like, it's something that I didn't even think was going to be a thing. Like, I feel like it's one of those leagues that until you're offered it, you don't really like go, yeah, fuck, I want to go play in the MLS. But when the interest came, I would pretty much as soon as it came, I said, yeah, like 100%. If they're keen, I'm keen. And it did happen pretty quickly, to be honest. Like, I was back home in Adelaide in off season again, as normal, after the Western Sydney season, and I think I was heading back, and the deal wasn't going to get done. So I said, I'll start preseason obviously with Western Sydney, treat it like I'm going to be there, and if this works out, perfect. Um, and yeah, it obviously ended up working out, and it was something that I didn't even have to sit down with family to talk about it. I didn't have to convince anyone. It was like, yeah, if this works, I'm going. Like, there's no way I'm not going. And I think that's just like based off just the players that are there. The step up's not. It's something that you can realistically play in, and obviously I have played in. And I was like, man, you do well here. Your CV is just it's insane. It holds so much more respect nowadays, especially with the players that are, like I said, the outgoings, and just even the players that are there now. So for me, it was like, mate, if I can go over there, if I can start playing, start scoring some goals or whatever, it can only be a really, really good thing. So yeah, I was buzzing, honestly buzzing before I left, and even when I got there, and I still am, like, I'm buzzing to go back for a whole season next year. And I signed at a weird time, so it'll be good to actually get a pre-season in, and hopefully have a sick year as well. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, obviously rating it. Well, what would you say is the standard or the difference maybe between the A League and the MLS if you're talking about standards of players?
I would just say that they've got one. Money is the absolute everything. Like, you talk about what's wrong with the A League, it's money. Like, there's a lot of things wrong, but it all stems from money. Not enough games because there's no money. There's players not being brought in, facilities, pitches. It's all money, and that's just not like for the MLS. That's not an issue. So they've got good facilities. They've got these amazing foreigners that want to come because maybe to them the lifestyle's good, and especially like you're playing for a team like LA Galaxy or LAFC or something like that, or Inter Miami. You're living in some of the most amazing places in the world. So, and for them, it's probably pretty similar to how foreigners think when they come here. Oh, it'll be a piss up, but it's not. Like, it's hard, as we know. Like, we've seen foreigners come to the A League thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, and they get here and they go, fucking hell, they end up on the bench the whole season because they're just, they're mentally not there, or they're actually just not up to scratch physically or for up to the standards. So I think the main difference is just, the money that they can have to buy foreigners, more foreigners, and the young players that they have. Some of them are been bought for 2 million. The young players are coming to the MLS now instead of going to Europe. Like we signed a 20-year-old Polish guy that won the Polish first div with his team. He signed for us instead of going to, Europe, which he definitely could have done. Now he's playing with the Poland national team and scoring against Portugal. Like, that's the sort of difference now, where it's just like people are looking at the MLS and seeing, these players leave for such good money, and they're coming in now because they're like, well, if I do well here, I'm going to a top 5 league. It's as simple as that. Like, I think that's what the main difference is.
What do you think he'd be on? Well, you probably know because you can probably search it, but like...
Well, you can just search it up. So I haven't looked. I think I had a look to see if it was correct, and I had a look at my name. So then while I was on there, I was like, I'll look at the other boys are on as well. It's pretty good. Like, I'll let you have a look because I don't want to be like you said, you can search up wages, which I think is fucking crazy.
That's fucked. That's fucked.
Man, but that's just causing problems.
You boys keep talking, I'll look it up.
Yeah, you look it up. But yeah, like, for example, you're a winger, let's say my example, you're a winger, and, I'm on, let's say, 100K, and I'm starting every game. And there's a winger that's, say, maybe around my age, who's on 600K. I'm going, well, what's going on here? I'm starting over this guy, and I'm on 100 grand. So players in the MLS will use that, and they'll go, well, I'm on this much. The starting winger, your other winger is on this much. I need a better contract. And they can't really argue with that, because it's there, it's in writing. So players will just get new contracts because it's like, well, and even little things like, well, the average wage for the starting right back is, let's say, 250K. And let's say the right back starter is on 100K. He goes and says, well, I should actually be on 250K. It does not work like that, by the way, but that's what they're doing, and they're getting it. Like, they're going, yeah, you're right, here's 250K. It's insane.
So they'll just upgrade their contract like that.
Yeah, or they'll sign the next one, or when the contract's running out, or even if they're going to go sign for a new team, and they go, well, I was on 100K, and I played 30 games, and I started, 28 of them. Other right backs in the league that are doing that are on this much. I deserve this much. And it's like, you kind of they just go, well, yeah, right, okay, fair enough. And then there you go, here's the cash. So it's weird that they display it all, but
that's the way the American sports is, I guess. But you've got, I looked it up, the Polish boy's on 600 US. So like, that's 900 Aussie. Like, that's a fucking good wage. Like, people in Australia obviously think everybody in Europe gets paid a lot of money, but unless you're in the top tier leagues, you don't get paid that much. It would be hard for him to get 900,000 Aussie at a lot of teams in Europe.
A lot of teams.
And obviously you're on 5.5 million US, it says here. So it's a great move for you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically everything I said's a lie. I just went for the money, pretty much.
I don't blame you for 5.5 mil. What
about what about in the change rooms, like with other boys? Is it ever come up about wages?
Look, it didn't where I was, but I've heard things before, where it's like, well, people start going, well, is that seriously how much you're fucking on? And it might not be a direct thing at the guy, because how angry can you get at the guy? Like, you can't say, fuck you should have said that. I mean, if you get offered 700, you're not going to go, I don't actually reckon I'm that good. Give us 300. Like, you can't really get angry at the guy. So it'll just more cause problems in, like, well, then, I don't know, maybe he's gone to the coach, or he's gone to the board, or, the higher ups, and saying, how the fuck is this cunt on, that money when I'm on this money? Like, it's things like that. So you got to be, I don't really see a benefit to it in any way, but like you said, they base it off all the other, American sports. And they do it. So that's just how it is, unfortunately. For me, it doesn't really cause a problem, because they look at it and go, yeah, it's all right. Well, you're probably on what you deserve in terms of the rest of the league, but I can imagine for players that, are at that both ends of the spectrum where they're overplaying their salaries, it would be, pretty shit. Or players that are underplaying their salaries where you're just like, I mean, I don't know if they would care too much because either way they're getting their salary, but that's where it starts to cause obviously problems within the locker room. Yeah,
Yeah, hurting people's egos. That's all it's really doing. But you're
pretty
obviously
much.
going back.
That's
You're
all it
going
is.
back soon. What are your goals going forward? Obviously, to get a full season in, I'm sure you just want to play as much as you can and prove yourself over there. But in terms of national team, is that something that's on the radar for you? It's on the fucking radar for everyone. But is it something that you think that you can
Yeah,
achieve soon?
yeah, definitely. I think I'm, obviously playing like at the MLS, you're a lot closer. So yeah, for me, it's just get over there and like you said, play as much as I can and do well. Um, and yeah, I think, but if I'm over there playing in the MLS and, I'm scoring goals here and there and playing well, I think, the national team is definitely something that should be in the sights for sure. So yeah, you just get, like I said, keep my head down and get over there and just do as well as I can and hope it sort of falls in place for me because yeah, that's obviously what everyone really wants when they're playing. And like I said, if I can do well over there in the MLS, who knows what can happen after that? Even if that's staying in the MLS and getting a better contract, or doing what players do in the A League, where go from a different club to another club and sort of just embed myself in that league. That's not a bad thing either. So yeah, that's probably my main goal for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, no, that's pretty realistic, I think. Obviously, if you can go there and play well. But before we go on to some quick fire questions, I know you spoke about money's, the one thing that they have a lot of. What's it like in terms of, the travel and then the food and stuff like that you're getting? Because obviously you're traveling massive distances from east to west coast and stuff like that. How does that work in comparison to, here in the A League, we jump on a Qantas flight, economy. We might get the business lounge if we're lucky, or the Qantas Club. But what's it like over there with the travel? Because it must be difficult.
Yeah, so we fly private, so we have a private plane that you basically pull up to like an airport strip is a private airport, and you just get on the plane, travel, and then you come back. So those are just the little things, and you talk about and money and whatnot, where it's just like, yeah, it's another level. It's the perks and things of that type of stuff. It's insane. Like everything's on another level, and I think Americans are like that. If the best teams in the world are doing this, well, we got to get close to it because they want to be the best. The league. If you talk to people in and around the league, they want to be one of the best leagues in the world. Soon. And that's
Yeah,
why they've sort of gone for it for the with the World Cup, and they're really putting a strong foot forward because yeah, they want to do as well as they can. So it's just things like that where you can't compare. Like it's insane. So yeah, those are the main things really.
do you speak to the owner? Like, have you ever met the owner?
So the actual owner, no, but I can only imagine that guy's probably the busiest guy, or he's on a yacht somewhere. I mean, he owns we spoke on Saturday. I think he owns the Jazz, he owns the hockey team, he owns the women's team. So it's that's what you're comparing it to. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. It's insane.
Well, look at like even Auckland coming in with Bill Foley. He doesn't own an American team, but I'm sure if he wanted to, a MLS team, he could. He owns obviously I think is it the hockey that he owns there. But like,
Yeah,
look at what he's done to Auckland. I saw, just the other day they announced they're doing a beach at their stadium where they're bringing in fucking all this sand. They're gonna have fucking drinks, a pool there. Like he has the American mindset where he can do that because he has the money, but he also
they
understands he's going to get a return on that in the long run. And they've had sold out stadiums.
yeah
They're doing $100,000 in merchandise at one of the games. So we need more
yeah
owners
they go
like
above
that.
and beyond, but it's
Yeah,
not. Yeah, it's not unreasonable in terms of why you're doing that. Like you said, they're going to get something from it because people
mm,
are going to want to go, or even if it's they're not doing that every week. It's different. They're doing that like it's things like that. So yeah, that sort of model. And I'm not saying A-League teams need to start flying private, but there's definitely things where they might be able to just you don't have to do it to that extent. This MLS stuff, they're going crazy because they can, but there's definitely like little things that they could look at that might actually go a long way in terms of making the A-League what it was, not too long ago. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion, I think. But let's
Yeah, I was
get
going to say, I need another hour for that.
honestly, and we've already taken a bit of your time, so let's do these quick
No,
fire
you're good.
questions. I know you're a busy man. First one is most memorable moment of your career.
I'd say my debut at Sydney FC when I was 16. I had all of my family there. It was at Cooper's against the best team. I mean, Sydney that year. That was with Milos Ninkovic, Adrian Majalski, and stuff like that. That for me was by far my most memorable part, and something that sort of really cemented how sort of my career has sort of gone. Something I'll just never forget for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Best player you've played with?
Or best player I've ever played with. I mean, if you talk about quality and things, the player that I'm playing with now, Diogo Concalves, is this guy. Yeah, I need another hour to talk about some of the stuff that guy does as well. Like it's just insane. I mean, there's a reason he's played where he's played. Benfica, Copenhagen, Nottingham Forest. Like the guy's a joke. The stuff that he does on the ball, and my position, sort of 10/winger. The stuff that he does, just insane.
Are you just thinking, and fucking hell, how am I supposed to fucking play
And
under this
fucking
guy?
hell, I'm not gonna play a single minute next year. Pretty much. No, he can play on that side. I'll play on the other side if he wants to. Should be alright.
Yeah, top. Best player you've played against?
Um, when I was at Brentford B, we played against Arsenal in a international window, and played against Odegaard and Martinelli, and that was probably the most humbling thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I
Wow.
was just like, you can see it; they're obviously good, but no, you don't. And because we didn't play like a very very strong team either, so yeah, that was insane. They were unbelievable. So definitely one of those two for sure.
Fuck, not bad. Not bad players. Best advice for young footballers?
What we spoke about, I just think just enjoy it, enjoy the process. Don't you can't be putting pressure on yourself as a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid to be something. Just enjoy playing the game, enjoy the social side, and if you do love it, and obviously the older you get, start putting more care and dedication into it. But for sure, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top advice. Best stadium you've played at?
Or I honestly, Cooper's on a Friday night is unbelievable, and the weather's nice. I love that, but like in terms of like actual stadiums, I didn't get to travel too much in the MLS, but we played against Minnesota. They've got a new stadium. I think it's like the Audi Stadium or something. That was insane, and that was like packed. I think it was like 25 plus. One of the playoff games, and that was I was actually like looking around like, far out. This is insane. So I'd say probably that one there.
Yeah, crazy. And lastly, your dream five-a-side. We'll give you two. So five players that you've played with, and then they've coming up against your other five, which are your dream players.
Oh, so four. All right, five I've played with. I'll have in goal. Probably have Joe Gauchi. Um, and then I'm doing absolute vibes. I'm having myself. Oh, obviously you got to put yourself in there. I'll have Bill P, just in case we need a rush goalie because he's got the longest arms in the world. Um, I'll go Riley McGree, bit of class. Um, I'll put my mate Jimmy in there just because he'll get annoyed, and then I'll go with Louis Dorigo, just hold it down there.
Oh, nice.
Five,
Very
five of the.
Adelaide bias. Very Adelaide bias, that team.
You got to be, bro. We need. Everyone talks too much crap about Adelaide, man. So when at any chance I can to, get us in the best place possible, I always will.
Yeah, no.
Everybody that comes here
And
loves
then
it.
but that's the thing I don't understand. How is that like? How people can't see that? Like, no one leaves Adelaide when they come. What
It's true.
foreigners come to an A-League team and stay, other than Adelaide players? It's
Yeah, you're
insane.
right. You are right.
Yeah, but still we cop it. So it's oh well, it is what it is. But five. So now and then five of just like my all time.
All
Yeah.
time. Your favourite players from past, present,
Mm.
whatever.
Oh, Allison
Future.
in goal. Allison in goal. I'm going Messi. I'm going Beckenbauer, and then I'm going. Oh my God, I got three more. I'm going Pele, Ronaldinho, and then I'm going Zidane. I think. Yeah,
Wow.
all out
Strong.
attack, but yeah, that'll do a job, I reckon.
Rate it. Beckenbauer at
Yeah,
the back on his own,
yeah,
holding down the fort with Allison.
yeah, exactly right. The guy does everything, so it should be right.
Yeah, I think they'll have the measure of the boys that you've played with. Something tells me.
Maybe just
Yeah.
just
Well,
easy.
we won't keep you any longer, Lockie. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a top chat. Enjoy the rest of your off season. Best of luck when you go back to the States. Hopefully you hit the ground running, and we'll see you with the national team very soon.
Thank you guys. No, it was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
And what a chat that was with our good mate Lachy Brook. As we said, we both played with him. He's a good character. He's actually really good, I think, for the change room. I had a good night out on Saturday with him. He's definitely enjoying himself here in Adelaide, and it was interesting to hear. Obviously, you look on the outside now. He's playing in the MLS. It's unbelievable, but for such a young player, to go through all the ups, all the downs, everything that we experience as well. But hopefully for you listeners, you kind of understood the mental strain and told that it does take on you, even though you're over in England thinking this is the dream. Fuck, sometimes it can be an absolute nightmare, and you get in a dark place in it, and that's where it goes to show. Even if you're on $5 million, like you joked about Saudi, it actually doesn't matter if you're on all that money. Yeah, okay, it's great because you can drive a nice car and you don't have to worry about any bills, but it doesn't mean you're happy.
No.
You
No.
just cry in your Ferrari.
Exactly. The materialistic things might make it look like the person's very happy on the outside, but if you're waiting for a materialistic thing, or you're waiting until you score 20 goals, or until you get a contract that's worth $1 million till you're happy, then you're going to get there and you're going to feel just as empty as before, because you're going to get there and go, well, fuck, I feel the exact same. Maybe now I need $2 million or $3 million, and that's where life can be very greedy, and that's why you need to just be gracious for what you do have at the time. And at the end of the day, the most important thing, and every single guest that we've ever spoken to says that, your happiness, it comes before anything. And football does dictate that a lot. But when you're living away from home, when football's not going right and you can't be happy, fuck, it's one of the hardest positions to be in. And probably people from the outside don't see that side of football and footballers. And I think probably the higher level that you get to, the worse it gets. Because the more
Yeah,
scrutiny you get put under, you get absolutely caned for every single mistake you make in a game.
absolutely Harry Kane.
Absolute harried for every mistake that you make. If you were playing in the Premier League or a top five league or for Real Madrid, fuck me. Good luck. I don't think you can even have social media, to be honest.
Nah, and you know what? Like, a lot of them probably have people that run it for them, but like even then, like, all right, your quality of life. I know it's unbelievable. You're playing at the Emirates, Anfield, amazing stadiums, Champions League, and when things are going well, great. But still, you wake up in the morning in this. All right, yeah, it's a mansion or wherever you've got. Great. You get in your nice car. You drive to training. You get into the training ground. You fucking have breakfast. You do your recovery. You train. You probably stay at the training ground, and then what do? You drive straight home. You can't even go to the shops. You can't go to a cafe. Like, me and you, we love to go and sit at a cafe, whether I'm doing work or just fucking reading the paper or just relaxing there. They can't do those simple things that we can, and we're obviously players as well. So we probably that's maybe why we chose not to play in the Premier League and we're just staying here in the A League. But like, you know, you sacrifice a lot when you're those top tier players, and then everybody thinks, oh, you're a fucking Premier League player, you're on all this money, you should perform, and you shouldn't get tired, and you shouldn't get this. I don't fucking understand. I can't understand how anybody can even say that argument, because like, you're playing a ridiculous amount of games, the stress, the mental toll that would take on you. Yeah, okay, you've got this money, but fucking hell, what does that do? Because you're stuck in this house, you can't spend it anyway. What, you're fucking dressing up in this fucking $5,000 suit, $10,000 suit to what? Walk to your fucking bathroom?
Yeah, look, there's pros and obviously there's cons to it. I think that's what people sometimes fail to realise when they smash these players. We've spoken about it a million times, that we're all just human as well at the end of the day, and that's the biggest point that we're trying to raise, is that, you know, we're also professional athletes. Yes, the level's not as much as what it is if you were playing in the English Premier League or in a top league, but we still feel it. And every guest that we've ever had on the podcast, you know, they always speak to that, and they always agree that, yes, we feel it. Yes, you know, there's mental struggles. There's times where I doubted myself. So I think that's probably the most important lesson for any, you know, young aspiring footballers or even young professional footballers out there, to hear that, you know, you are normal. It is normal to feel like that. And the world is becoming a place where that is a lot more normal to speak about and vocalize. So it's definitely something that we welcome here. Hopefully we can shed some light on it and help anyone out there. But that's all for today's episode. We've talked enough shit. We'll be back on Monday. Make sure you guys following us on Football Friends Pod on Insta and TikTok, at Ben and Stef Pod on X, and Football Friends with Ben and Stef on YouTube. Plenty of footy on this week. Gary, good luck for your game. Hopefully you boys can get another win.
Of course, we'll get the job done. Friday night, as Lachy said, at Cooper's. Tickets are selling like hotcakes. I doubt there's going to be one left. So all the Adelaide people listening in on Thursday morning, it's probably too late to buy. But if you haven't, try and snag yourself one. And good luck for your game, Ben, if you're going away to Auckland. If not, enjoy putting your feet up on the couch and watching the Reds get the job done.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. We'll see you on Monday.